What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Talkin Grizz. I'm your host, Kelcey. I'm joined, I guess he's not in Houston right now, but he is the Houston reporter for The Athletic. He writes there on the Houston Rockets. This is Alykhan. Oh my God, and your last name, I'm just going to mess it up again. Alykhan Bijani.
Bijani, yeah. You
got it. We got it. We're good to go. All right. Here's my question. Number 2 draft for the Houston Rockets. This is the team that went 17-55 this year. Wasn't the best year for this Houston Rockets team, but we saw a couple players have some success. We saw Kelly Olynyk come in at the end there and have some success for him. So my first question to you is, when you look at this number 2 pick for this Houston Rockets team, positionally, because right now there are some good guards and there is a good big available. Positionally, what do you think is going to be kind of that best fit?
Yeah, I don't think the Rockets will be looking at it from a roster fit perspective. That meaning that they're not going to look at, okay, who do we have right now and where does this player slide in? It's going to be about, who they can bring in and how well they can play along, not just with who they have on the roster currently, but players in the future as well. Because ultimately, as you know, with Ja, whenever you have a number 2 overall pick, you're trying to bring in a player who can fit in well with anybody, any system, any team. And so I think that's going to be the priority, just making sure they're adding talent that is capable of being a contributor on a championship level team. They're building slowly. They're building it methodically. And I don't think they're going to be kind of just just kind of committed to just one specific position. They do have Kevin Porter Jr. They do have Kelly Olynyk, who is an unrestricted free agent. Christian Wood is a good, promising young big. But that being said, if you go based off of what is the best talent available, and based off of that, the Rockets will make the decision.
All right. Now, that is something I think that Grizzlies fans can relate to, because when you have a player like a Ja Morant, you draft him. Unfortunately, they got rid of Mike Conley. I know a lot of Grizzlies fans were sad to see that go, but then you start to build around that number 2 pick. So in saying that, do you think, and you don't have to give me your pick quite yet for the mock draft, but saying that, there's options. There's a few players that names are being brought up. And I will say Cade Cunningham is like unanimously this number 1 pick. So if you eliminate him from the options, give me like your 2 top options and like what their upsides would be with this Rockets team.
Yeah, that's a terrific question. I think I'm going to add in a third one.
Even better.
I'm very high on Jalen Suggs. I know customarily it's usually just the Evan Mobley or Jalen Green conversation, especially among those who are fans of the Rockets. But I really do think that Jalen Suggs is a terrific young player. He can be a great piece for you, especially in a young team that's looking to just establish an identity. Having a good floor general, having a good defensive guy who can be versatile on both ends is going to be key. I think any franchise that gets Jalen Suggs is going to be in great shape for that. Now, when it comes to the other 2 guys, Evan Mobley, he's this guy who you can put him in any type of defensive scheme. You can place him in drop coverage, kind of like what the Memphis Grizzlies do with Valanciunas. You can place him in switches on the perimeter and pick and roll and have him guard some of those guys out in space. He is a very good player in that regard. I think he's going to continue to get better defensively too. Offensively, he has a lot of skills that you can kind of hopefully tap into and see how he fits in well in a 5-out offense. 5-out offense is becoming the name of the game in the NBA. It's not just about pick and roll. It's not just about being able to attack on isolation. It's about making sure you're creating the most possible space you can for your best playmakers to get inside the paint and create for others. I think Evan Mobley, with just kind of how young he is and how good of a passer he is for his age and how he was a great decision maker for USC, that bodes well for him. Lastly, Jalen Green, terrific scorer. I mean, I'm really bullish about his potential as a scorer. It would not surprise me if within the next 2 to 3 years, in the first 2 to 3 years of his career, if he's averaging at least 20, 25 points per game, just because he makes it look so easy and that he can kind of just rise up over defenders and knock down shots. And I think in the NBA, he's going to come a lot. He's going to come off the screens a lot. And it'll be good for him to kind of hopefully play alongside somebody else who can also create their own shot too. You can be able to kind of take turns. So all 3, players I just listed there, all terrific fits. I think it's just going to come down to, what do you see as the best fit for you as you're creating a championship level roster you're hoping to create, better way to phrase it, over these next several seasons. This is just step 1. You have a number 2 overall pick. You want to make sure that whoever you pick is not only going to be a good player individually, but they can play well in any type of system, any type of scheme, and just kind of work together with different types of players.
Alykhan, you just broke that down better than I think anyone can ever. So now I'm giving you the reins. You are the GM for the next 25 seconds of this Houston Rockets team. For our mock draft, you're on the clock for the number 2 draft pick. Those are obviously the 3 options that are most likely. Who do you go with?
You know, for me, as of today, and as of the day we are recording this, I'm very, very high on Evan Mobley. I think Evan Mobley for me right now is number 2. I think very close, he could be 2B with him, is Jalen Green. I think as of right now, just with how well he can score the basketball and the potential he has as a scorer and as an offensive player, I think the Rockets will select Jalen Green with a 2nd overall pick. This is a lot of things are yet to be determined, but as of right now, if you were to ask me, I would say Jalen Green.
Okay, and my very last question is just kind of a follow-up because you have talked about his scoring ability and that you like that about him. If you were to compare his game or like even the potential that you see his game being in the NBA to an NBA player right now, like who do you think he plays like?
You know, that's a terrific question. It's really hard for me to say. You know, when people look at his athleticism, I've seen a lot of comparisons online to a guy like Zach LaVine. Or just to be able to how he's able to kind of come off of actions and kind of use his athleticism effectively, not to that extent, but just like a guy like Bradley Beal. I'm not saying he's like those players already. I'm not saying he will be those players.
But those
are some of those comparisons that I've seen online, and especially the Zach LaVine one, I've thought more about than other comparisons I've seen.
That's really fun. All right. I appreciate your time. I really appreciate your analysis. I'm going to lock all of the stuff that you just said in for like the next ones when we go talk to the other teams because they're going to have to pick those other 2 guys that you didn't. So thank you so much. And I guess at the end of July, we're going to see who this Houston Rockets team is going to start to build this rebuild around.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fun time to be covering Houston, just like as it was a few years ago to be covering the Grizzlies. Just to be able to see which young player they're going to bring in and how well they're going to be doing.
All right. Appreciate you so much. And Grizzlies fans, you can get more on grindcitymedia.com.